Welcome, Rob, once again. I know we're going to do some channeling today, but before we get into that, I was wondering if you could help myself and the audience kind of understand and decipher and define the term density and dimensions.
Okay.
Because a lot of times we hear the term thrown around all the time, the fifth dimension. You know, humanity's ascending into the fifth dimension. And then we've heard through those other channels as well as channel material from Ardif and Treb about densities. And they seem to be similar but yet different, and you seem to have a pretty good grasp on this. So I'm wondering if you could just, in your words, tell us what's the differences, how do they interact, and the short version.
All right. Well, first, the first thing to look at is dimensions. I think that's the most important one. And a lot of people confuse the terms between the two, so getting clarity on it's very important. Okay. Dimension, it's height, depth, width, time, space. Those are the equivalents of understanding those dimensions for us. Now, height, depth, width, those are 3 dimensions. Time and space are another. That kind of creates, and space incorporates the height, depth, and width. It gives you an exact reference in space, where to go, latitude, longitude. We use these all the time. Now, when we're looking at time, it's a different thing. In our experience as humans, we've only felt time in a linear fashion. We have a beginning point, a reference, and an end point, and everything in between, and we can mark those. When you look into your own life, you could say, on my 3rd birthday, that was then, so we're going back in time. Right now I'm 35, so I could say when I'm 70, this will happen, and I can reference 35 years in the future. So we always have a point in time, and it's either behind us or in front of us. And then we have the now. That's the experience. This is where our thoughts, our consciousness is focused in each moment, the now. And this is what we experience in a dimension. A dimension in our experience is the 4th dimension, because we have time. We have time-space actually together, and then we have height, depth, width. That's an experience we can kind of understand. So right now, we are in the 4th dimension, and there's 4 variables. And there are lower dimensions. There's 3rd dimensions, where it's height, depth, width. There's
no
also
time, no space-time exists?
No space-time exists in that experience. There's also height and depth, and height and width, and no depth and time, space. So that's a 3rd dimensional experience. And it goes lower, but it also goes higher. And this is the part that really is hard to reference for people who have never experienced going out of their time zone or feeling a past life or even a past point in their life as if it was happening in the moment, where the reference was then right there. So in the higher dimensions, we have experiences where time is not a time-space, it's a fluidity. And by fluidity, I mean there's no set point reference. In a higher dimension, for instance, a 5th dimensional being like Treb, if you say to Treb, you know, well, 1937 was a good year. No, that's a field to him. It's not a place on a map.
What? A field?
Yeah, a field.
A field, okay.
Like an experience.
Okay, right.
So it's not point A to point B, you have to go there. It's actually another coordinate into the entire calculation that is fluid. So when he steps into understanding that 1932 at the Earth, at this dimension, at this level, was an experience, he doesn't have to look back into the history books for it. He can just change his overall feeling, and then he's able to shift into that place, into that time. So his experience is always now, just like ours is, but there's no bounding in time. Right now, we can only see past and future as a memory. And that incorporates either using imagination, sleep state, meditation. That's the only way we can really try to reference, but there's no tangibility to it. It's only a fleeting energy. It's not an experience. Treb's race in the fifth dimension, they can go to that experience. There's no limit. There's no tie down of A to B. There's just a fluidity to it.
Now, would they go there and craft? I'm assuming craft or even mentally. How does that work?
For them, as in their race specifically, and each race does this differently. Some use more technology, some use more internal mechanisms, consciousness, meditation. But for his race, he just goes to the spot. If he comes to Earth, then he would have to get to Earth with his ship. But once he's on Earth, depending on where or what part of the Earth, he just has to shift over to that feeling.
Right.
So the feeling, and the technology does help them. For me and you, we'd say if you wanted to go to 1932 in a spaceship from Capella, you would just take the ship and come here in 32. And he could do that. He could take his ship and just drive back to 1932 as a feeling, as a part. His feelings then register to the technology of the ship. It's integrated.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like you punch in numbers. The feeling of it incorporates into the ship, and it's an extension of their thoughts and extensions of their feelings and consciousness. Then he's able to shift. But he could also just come to Earth, and then when he's at Earth, get the feeling of what 1932 is and shift over into it. So that experience in itself is also a valid one.
We hear the term density thrown around all the time. Can you explain what density? And I think it's integrated with consciousness, like fifth density consciousness, fourth density consciousness. So how does that work?
What a density incorporates is the evolution of a soul, and to understand that, we have to understand the parts of the soul. Now, when people say soul, what they're meaning is themselves, what they experience. But your soul is much bigger than that. The part of you that experiences every day, the part that goes grocery shopping, that eats, that watches TV, or the ones that really have these great spiritual experiences, that's the lower fractal consciousness. That's your daily amount of consciousness that you have to utilize in your life.
Kind of in this reality that we're in typically every day, we're terming that lower fractal consciousness.
Yes, absolutely. And the next step up is a higher fractal consciousness. The lower fractal consciousness is what most people see that they have, but that's literally only a small percent. And the percentage that's given from Treb and Ardif is about 20%, 25 at the most. Then we have the rest of this, which is the 80% or 75% of us that's higher than that. And that's the part that we reach to during those great aha moments, during those parts of you where you find great inspiration from spirit, or just finding an experience that is so far removed from your reality that it kind of question marks you. We're reaching into the higher fractal consciousness. This is the part of us that extends all the way through the next layer, which is the Oversoul. Now, the Oversoul is a part that knows everything. It's non-physical. It has an incorporation of everything that you ever were, everything that you will be, everything you are now, and any parallel that runs within it.
So this is where you can start accessing other lives in this state of consciousness.
Yes, and it's not just the past lives, it's the future lives, it's the parallel lives. And this is something that a lot of people have a hard time with. They say, well, past life, I can't have a future life, it's in the future. Time's not linear, but the way we experience
Got attacked there.
the flies are enjoying the pep talk. But the time's not linear, so you look at it like past lives, future lives, neither one of them are set in stone. They're both probabilities. And when you say, well, I had a past life that did this, it could be. It is because you're focused on that energy now.
Right.
And that's what the Oversoul, the higher fractal consciousness does. It reaches to the Oversoul, and it reaches out to the past, future, and parallel lives.
Right.
And this is where you can access all your informations, the higher fractal consciousness.
Okay.
And that's part of a density, and it's important to know that, because in a density, it's showing you the linear evolution. The very first layer of density is our first density, and that's where all elementals exist. Fire, rock, electricity, wind, all of those things that humans think are not living.
Right.
it does have consciousness, but it's a different level of consciousness. Those are also building blocks for all things above it too. So this is a very important part.
I see.
And the next layer we go, see, we're evolving in our soul now, linearly, we're evolving.
Right.
Now the next layer is animal life, and this is anything from bacteria to animals to plants, all second density.
Okay.
Now, there's themes in these too, and the reason why it's important, if anyone understands what a chakra system is, we have 7 energy points, each representing something different.
Right.
The first energy point at the base of our spine represents existing, safety, the sense of belonging. The second one, sexuality, reproduction, excitement, not excitement, but thrills. That's the second.
Thrills, okay.
And the third chakra represents experiencing a higher state of understanding. It also explains the sense of self. It explains going through time linearly, forwards and backwards. So if you correlate these chakras with the densities, you'll see the same themes being played out. So this is why we have our 7 chakras, to tap into each density or each dimensional part of us.
I see.
Densities, though, are more than that.
Okay.
They're from first to third is on one physical plane, one dimension.
Right.
That's 4th dimension.
I see.
And 4th and 5th density are on a harmonic level above that. And by harmonic level, I mean the atoms that build the physical stuff vibrate on a higher level. So high we can't see them here. So higher than our light that we experience, it vibrates higher than that.
Right.
And that is an experience, 4th density is an experience of love, relationships, unconditional love, and you can experience it 2 ways, either with all that is and see that everything is connected, or you can unconditionally love yourself and serve yourself. And the same with all of these above 3rd. 5th density is an exploration of wisdom, galactic wisdom, wisdom of the universe, how things work. And the 6th density is an incorporation of the last 2 combined. It's a love for wisdom, and it's a deep love of wisdom. And this is the esoteric. Every secret in the universe, physical and non-physical alike, are unlocked in the 6th density.
Okay.
And the 6th density also. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky also. The 4th density is in one vibrational level. 5th, and I misspoke earlier and said 4th and 5th were together.
Right.
And it's 5th and 6th that are together.
Okay.
But the way that they're expressed are different, so they still can't. A 5th density being can't experience a 6th density being physically.
Oh. Okay.
But they're on the same harmonic level. The issue is the vibrational level of the things that make them up are spun in a different rotation angle. The entire system, even in different levels of rotation, and this gets very deep, and I'm trying not to dive too deep.
Right.
But everything that exists on 6th density is vibrationally at a different angle than the 5th, and that's why they can't experience each other.
Okay.
Even the overall density is vibrating and turning, let's say, this way at a 45, while this one's at a 90, and they're spinning opposite ways. Even the atoms in here, they're all spinning different ways, different rotation, different angles, same here, but they just can't experience each other. Each density, for the most part, it's a different dimension, but a different experience, and that's why you can have 1st, 2nd, and 3rd be on the same dimension,
Right.
but have different experiences and growth.
I
It's
see.
all about the evolution of the soul.
So are we 3rd density consciousness?
We're actually a 4th density race right now.
Oh, okay.
Humanity is 4th density right now.
Okay.
But most of us don't experience the 4th density because of our beliefs. We've been taught to believe a certain way, and we've been raised in a vibration that's not fitting or that's compatible with the 4th density life. So most humans, they are considered 4th, or all humans are considered 4th density, but we experience 3rd density.
I see.
But 3rd density is still 4th dimensional.
Go into that a little bit.
So right now we are considered 4th density beings, which means we are also 4th dimensional. 4th density is actually a 5th dimensional energy, but
Okay.
because our beliefs, because of the way we've incorporated our energy throughout our evolution, we cannot consciously experience the fourth density experience. When we have these moments where we're able to communicate with different entities, when we're able to experience times in the day where it doesn't seem like it was linear, where we're like, it seemed like it was night and then it was day.
Right.
A lot of people are having those experiences now.
Right.
They're tapping into their fourth density experience. So literally, all of us are fifth dimensional right now.
Okay.
We just cannot experience the fifth dimensional part of us.
So technically, energetically, the planet has already made the transition into the fifth dimension, or is it still in transitioning mode, and we're just trapped in our belief systems that we're figuring this out? So some people are in the fifth dimension already, and some people are still hanging out in the fourth dimension.
Well, right now, we are all fourth density, which means vibrationally and physically, the things that make us up are fifth dimensional.
Okay. Yep.
What we're not experiencing is that lag from belief, so we're not able to experience the full shift.
Right.
We've been in fifth dimensional energy or fourth density energy for a couple of years now. And this is why, if you look at the phenomena of channeling, if you look at the phenomena of telekinesis, of telepathy, any of those things.
Qigong masters doing, moving things, yeah.
Yeah,
Healing.
that's huge now.
Yeah.
Back 10 years ago, there was
Right.
very little of it. Now
Yeah.
it's just...
Right, people are having abilities, telepathic, things happening all the time. Now, this may tie into this subject matter or not, I'm not sure. Now, I had, on a meditation almost a year ago, I saw the double helix DNA, and then I saw that the double helix DNA meant third dimension, or fourth dimension, I guess we're in with space-time. And then the triple helix DNA meant fourth dimension, fifth dimension. And then, I don't know, would you call it a quad helix DNA? And I kind of saw this relationship between DNA strands and higher dimensions. And it was always like one step lower. The triple helix DNA would mean fourth, fifth dimensional consciousness. During your conversations with Treb and Ardif, has there been talk of DNA and that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. DNA is the key to our multidimensionality as humans.
Oh, okay.
Treb and Ardif have always said humans are multidimensional beings, which means that in those higher levels of harmonic levels, the higher dimensions, we exist in all of those simultaneously. So there's a version of our energy that exists in every place, and our DNA is what connects the energy from our non-physical to our physical body. So the DNA is a beacon, a signal, that gives the information that we're receiving through our chakra systems in our body into the DNA, which then give us our physical bodies. All of us are non-physical beings. Every entity in this universe are non-physical to start and then physical to begin. That's being projected and created into that reality. And the DNA is what brings it. And the reason you're seeing the difference, the double strand representing our third density self, and the triple strand is just the beginning of the fourth density self.
Okay.
The more that we integrate into our fourth density, the more of our DNA activates. And the reason for that is because the 12 dimensional plate, or the 12 density or 12 matrix, however you want to look at it,
Right.
the 12 levels of consciousness, we have the availability to have 12 strands of that DNA. And each density we go into activates more of that.
Okay.
And it's more than just jumping from density to density, it's internal growth. And this is something that I try to not understate whatsoever. It's not about how many DNAs you have, it's not about what density you are. The self-growth and expansion, yeah.
So it is consciousness awareness, it's the evolution of the soul.
Yes, the evolution.
And so you can't go into the doctor and get a shot full of triple helix DNA and then you'll be in the fifth dimension. It's that would be nice.
They'd be millionaires too.
Yes. So it literally is a experiential growth of the being, of the fractal consciousness of each of us.
Yes, absolutely.
Gotcha.
And it's something that can't be short-circuited or jumped either. A lot of people say, well, we're supposed to be in fifth density, not fourth. We're supposed to skip it. There might be existence where that happens, but from what I've understood, it's a course to follow. And this is why we reincarnate. Everything that we had to learn about our third density experience has been experienced. That's why we're done with it.
Right. So we've all played all the roles and we've switched it up, and you know, I've killed you, you've killed me, we've been lovers, we've you know, built empires, we've destroyed them, you know, everything under the sun, we've all experienced that in so many different ways.
And the third density experience is exactly expanding beyond just existing. Like an animal, they live in instinct. There's a higher level of understanding. It incorporates the concepts of relationships. It incorporates the concept of experiencing time linearly, but also being aware of linear time, where an animal instinctively feels the cycles. The human looks at the cycles, they can see back, they can think forward. So it's all of those
animals
things.
are more in the now moment. They're not really thinking too far ahead, really, or what just happened. That's why when you kind of get mad at your dog for doing something and he's kind of in the doghouse, so to say, or in the corner, literally hours later he's licking your face and doesn't know.
Sometimes seconds later.
Exactly. They have no concept of time like we do. Interesting. Well, this definitely gives a great perspective, and thank you for sharing the knowledge. Was there anything else you wanted to add, or is that pretty much sums it up? Right?
I just think if people want to understand densities, dimensions, there's also matrices, it's a very complex study. There's tons of material out there. Density Masterclass is one that I do where I teach it publicly for free.
Oh, great.
To look into those, like we've got one on incarnation cycles, one on densities, dimensions. Those types of energies are very complex, and nothing, this is one perspective. You know, just even between Treb and Ardif, even though the reality is built the same way, they perceive it differently, so they see the levels a little differently. So just feel it out. You know, feeling of everything is perfect.
But I think this general overview that's been discussed now is a pretty good syllabus you could use for listening to all the channel material from all these different beings. So
now you'll know what a density is.
Thank you very much. This is huge, and I look forward to talking with Ardif about some of those other things, matrices and things like that. So
well, thank you. It's a pleasure.